All right, what's up, everybody? So today I'm going to go over 20 plus ways that you can sell your comic books. Basically, 20 places that are both in the real world and online that you can sell your comic books. And I'm not talking about your collection of comic books. I'm talking about if you are the creator, a writer, artist that created a comic series or comic book, where can you sell it? And you're looking for alternate ways that isn't just like in a comic shop or online at like your typical website or something like that. Here's 20 different places, both online and in the physical world, that some are even sort of obscure that I'm sure you've never really thought about or heard of that you can do. All right, so I'm going to start with the first half are physical places. So, number one, I have schools and colleges. And there's two ways you could do this. Like number one, you could literally just go to a college which has a lot of students that uh, travel in between classes, and there's a lot of like kind of like hubs that you can go to on a campus and sort of just street hustle. Just have a backpack full of comics and sort of being like, hey, are you interested? Obviously, this is a lot easier if you actually go to the college. But there's a better way of going about it, especially if you're wanting to get into not just colleges but like high schools, is you can actually reach out to like a governance board or like a student activities board and reach out to the school itself and ask if you can do a signing or if they'd be interested in having you come to the school and sort of give like a lecture or at least have it sort of be like an event on a certain day. Certain days throughout the year they have events where they would like to have local people, especially local artists and authors, that can come and sort of speak to this realm, and they allow you to set up shop while you're there. Number two, I have in the same kind of realm is homeschoolers. So there are, parents that teach their own kids, and they get together in groups, and just like schools, they form these communities and kind of little organizations, and they have book clubs, and they're always often looking for local authors or sort of obscure books outside of the norm that they can bring to their clubs and show to their kids and students, basically in the same way as anything else, where it's like they want to teach almost do it yourself. They want to find local authors that they can showcase, and you can find these kind of homeschooling groups all over online if you look it up. Number three, I have local businesses, and whenever I say this, I'm not talking about like local bookshops to sell on consignment, although that is something I'll get into. But what I'm talking about here is like there are local businesses, especially retailers, grocery stores, toy shops, any kind of collectible shops or cards and things like that. Anything in the realm of collectibles or entertainment, those kind of places, you can reach out to them, and they often won't mind if you just set up shop with a table on a Saturday and just try to do a signing for your books. It sort of draws attention to their local business. You can make it a thing, especially if you're like active in the community and things like that. And it's just something that you'll want to think about. Almost, if there isn't any kind of actual event going on in your community, you can sort of make an event. Number four, I have Zine Festivals. So I'm going to go over like there's a lot of just different conventions that you can do, and I'm going to kind of name each individual ones that are sort of popular amongst comic creators. And the first one is zines. So these are specific to people that do the do-it-yourself kind of comics, that they are self-printed, and even if you don't have a zine, you wouldn't want to sling your regular comic there. But if you it would be a reason to branch into zines, if you wanted to branch into the zine festivals. Even if you don't convert your own comic into sort of a zine, there's in addition to your own comics, it's fun to make zines. And the zine festivals they're almost even more proud and active in their own zine community than the indie comic community would be at cons. So if you were to go there to these festivals, you would almost build better bonds, with the people that are there, want to be there even more hardcore than people that want to be at Comic Cons, if that makes sense when it comes to like indie comics, because people at comic conventions, not all of them are into comic conventions. People at a zine festival, they are there for zines, so that's what I mean. It's like they're more active, they're more adamant about why they're there as opposed for when it comes to your stuff. Number five, I have small press and self-published book conventions. So these differ from Comic Cons because these are, once again, like zines, these people are specifically dedicated to just self published creators. Once again, these people, especially the people that are there, obviously, they are very adamant and dedicated to the self published community. And the people that are reading, they are equally adamant about supporting self published creators, whether that's book authors or graphic novelists and comic creators. Obviously, number 6 is the big one. That's comic and anime conventions. Some people don't even realize that, yeah, you can branch out into both of those, but I kind of lump those together. Especially the biggest comic cons, already combine, anime and manga into the same convention, but at the same time, there are anime conventions that are strictly just dedicated to anime and manga. Um, and obviously, you want to branch into all of these, okay? And then number 7, in addition to just, traditional cons, zine fest, small press fest, there's also like arts and crafts fairs. And those are more dedicated to sort of your local community. So if you're not near or not really like in the hub of a major city where the main comic cons go on, in your local area, you probably will have sort of arts and crafts fairs or kind of like media festivals that support local artwork and things like that. And these kind of things you can latch onto and sell your comics at. Number 8, I have horror and sci-fi conventions. This as well, it's like these are dedicated just to fans of horror or sci-fi or both. And so you'll see filmmakers at these things, toys, much like Comic Cons that are all kinds of different media within the comic realm, but just dedicated to these genres. And these are a bit more, less inclined to have people that are into indie comics, but because the people that are there are so into horror or that genre, if you have something that stands out, you're likely to draw in people that are going to be interested in your books. 9, I have author and book fairs. Obviously, in addition to Comic Cons, you can go to, there are author conventions, book fairs, and things like that, especially in your local areas that have these kinds of group signings and like events that to where people are just selling books and your comics and graphic novels fall under the greater category of books. So those are something that you'll want to get into as well. Number 10, I have subculture events and locations. So what I'm talking about with this is like skate parks, sporting events, martial arts tournaments. There are certain big events that if your comic falls into the realm of that category, especially if your book is about a specific hero or person, that is a martial arts tournament is a perfect example. It's like if you have an action story that is about a coming of age martial artist, a good place to try to sell those is at martial arts tournaments, which gather people that are into martial arts. And you can easily reach out to the organizations that run these tournaments and ask if you can post up as a vendor. And most of the time they will take whoever they can, Anything to bring eyes and more people to their event is, a win-win for both of you. Number 11, I have film festivals. So much like all of the rest of this stuff, film festivals allow vendors that aren't just selling films, In fact, the vendors that are there, most of the time, they aren't selling, DVDs. It's people that are selling things like comics, artwork. And so you can reach out to local film festivals, just like you would anything else, and ask if you can become a vendor. Number 12, in the exact same kind of category, but different, is music festivals. Now, music festivals are a great one because the people that go to these festivals, they're expensive to go to in the first place, and they bring money to spend on extra stuff like artwork and merch from the bands. And if you can become a vendor, it's a bit more difficult, especially at the really big ones. And they can often be expensive, equally as expensive as like a New York Comic Con or something. Like if you're trying to get at a really big festival where you're getting hundreds of thousands of people attending, they can be a great, avenue in. The other thing is, like, even if you actually don't become an official vendor, just going to music festivals and just, having a backpack of comics, you can often just sling them street style, which leads to my next one, which is what I just call street hustle. So this is where you literally just have, your books in a bag And as you're walking around in places that have a huge gathering of people, like Mardi Gras celebrations, like Mardi Gras in New Orleans, essentially you're just walking around a a city downtown area filled with people, and just the same way you see people like just holding their CDs back in the day, like when you just see people that are just like, yeah, check out my new CD. I'm a rapper, or I'm a musician of some sort, or people that are like busking, meaning like playing music on the streets. You can be the same kind of busker, but you're just hustling your own books. That's what I mean by street hustle. Number 14, I have local boutique stores. So boutique stores is like, this is your kind of like antique shops and places that just sort of sell obscure sort of little artsy kind of items, even like kind of furniture shops and things like that, that they often they will sell on consignment. But I'm also kind of talking about it the same way as like local businesses, like I was saying earlier, where if you just kind of reach out to them and see if you can set up a table in front on a weekend or something. In the same category, local bookshops. This one should be obvious. And then I also have number 16, local comic shops. Of course, in addition to everything I said beforehand, you should definitely be reaching out to your local book and comic shops and trying to get your comics in there. And if they don't actually like sell them on consignment or put them in your shop, you can at least try to set up an event to where you can do a signing. All right, for these final, I have 7. These are all online, all right? And some of them are obvious. Like number 1 is your own website or Shopify. So if you are self-publishing, or even if you aren't self-publishing, you can often, sell books on your own website that you can then sort of set up ads or do whatever, like I'm doing, create YouTube videos that then guide people to your website, like mine, hovencrow.com, where then I have my comics for sale. And even if you have a publisher, you can often partner with your publisher to basically, have a link on, a link to your site, or even buy your own physical books from your publisher or whoever they're printing with, and then have them available for sale from you, to where you'd actually like ship them out and stuff like that. Number 2, I have your publisher's website, which is basically sort of the same as number 1. If you have a publisher, you would obviously be selling on their website. And the key to this, for those that don't know, is that most of the time, when someone is buying a book directly from you or your publisher, you're cutting out the comic shop, which means that you are basically making more off of that book sale, because the comic shop's not taking their cut. And so it's often, obviously we like to help out the local comic shops and local businesses, but when it comes to on a grand scale, especially if you like, I have a lot of overseas fans, and the only real way for them to get books from me, if the country they're in hasn't licensed the books, is they have to buy them from me, and I have to ship them to them, or from my publisher's website, and then they have to ship them to them. So number 3, I have Webtoon, Tapas, Gumroad, and other basically digital sites. Another example is Global Comics. I know there's more. This is where so a lot of people just think like once you do one thing, you have one thing. If I sold my book, self-published it, went through Kickstarter, I'm done. But even went through comic shops, had its initial run, now it's over. But you can then also put your series onto these digital sites, and even if you don't put your actual, like the comic that you already released up there, you can often put sort of like offshoot stories and little short stories and put those online, so that they're available on these websites. They get a lot of eyeballs, and you can often, if you do a short kind of introductory story, and post them online and then get some eyeballs there, it can then lead people then to almost act like an ad that leads people to your actual physical books, which would be on your website or your publisher's website. Okay. Number 4, I have a digital print on demand like Amazon and Indie Planet. So how this differs from the other digital places is, like Webtoon, people aren't printing comics off of Webtoon. They're scrolling to read them. That's what they are. They're like that's what we call web comics. However, on sites like Amazon or Indie Planet, people are reading digital comics, but they also have the opportunity, because they're reading them like normal left to right comics, they can print them. It's basically just someone, clicks Amazon, buy now, and then Amazon prints it and sends it to them. Number 5 is Etsy and similar sites. So this is to where if you were to treat your comic or zine, especially, are huge there, as if it's a piece of artwork, and you're just selling them on that platform, which gets eyeballs, and then sell them that way. Now, why you do that over your own site? Well, to put it in front of places where there's already a lot of eyeballs. Number 6 is Web3. So this is, there's more on the way, and I'm not going to dive too much into this, but Web3 is basically places like Comixology or like Webtoon, and that you can post your comic onto it, but Web3 allows your book to be exclusive in the digital space. And so that means that you can actually have a digital print run that people can't just copy and paste your comic. The way the technology works is they're not really allowed to do that. And you could even digitally sign a book and actually have that be a unique signature. And it goes way beyond that. But right now, the big one is called D-Reader app. That is kind of the leading, not even like fully developed. It's still, I think, like what they call in beta, where it's like not fully ready yet, but it's available especially for early adopters, to where if you are a creator, you can post it on there to where people can read and download your comics, and you even get a cut, like a royalty, every time someone can resell the comic in the Web3 space. All right, the final one, I have subscription boxes. So there are people that like have these, they every month, or even more often than that, they will send boxes that people subscribe to full of books. And sometimes it's not just books. It's people that are into a very specific kind of like subculture, like the LGBTQ community especially, to where they just send boxes to their own fan base or community that are related, and sometimes it's books or comics or movies or artwork and things like that, or horror subscription boxes where they're putting in toys and action figures and cards, and of course signed autographed DVDs and things like that. But also they also release books or comics, or they're even just subscription boxes of indie comics and things like that. And you can look these up online, subscription box for comics and things like that. You can reach out to they're hard to get into, though. I will say, like, everybody's trying to get into this stuff, because subscription boxes, they buy your stuff in bulk, because they're sending, if they have 1,000 people that are subscribed to their box and they choose you're selling 1,000 to them. Even at a discount, you're still selling 1,000 of them, That's a lot, but it's high competition, because every author or filmmaker or whatever is trying to get into that game. So that's all I have for these. Thanks, everybody. Sorry it was simple but long. That's just how I roll. All right, see ya. Thanks.